Are you ready?
I guess so. Obviously, I figured out that they were addicts. I had full reign to everything. My vices have gotten worse. Self-harm, pornography.
What is up? Welcome back to another episode of a Struggling Christians podcast. I am your host, Blake. This is the podcast where we recognize the struggles of Christianity, we talk about how to overcome them, and we pray for those struggling. So I've talked several times about bringing people on, sharing their testimonies, and just kind of asking them questions and allowing them a space to open up and tell what their life was like before Christ, how they got to know Christ, what their life is like now, kind of how their life has changed since knowing Christ. And we had so much fun filming the other episode, our 1 year recap episode, and just reliving those memories. So you're in town for your birthday.
25.
Yes, her birthday's tomorrow. She's been in town for a couple days. We decided to film another episode and do your testimony.
This is the first time I've ever done this. I think I've shared my testimony individually with people, but definitely left parts out on purpose and definitely just didn't get that much into it as I'm going to get into it here. So
Why do you think you've left stuff out?
Because it's crazy. It's very personal. It's very scary to talk about. I guess sometimes probably scared of questions too that'll come after it.
I've definitely been there.
And it kind of just depends on the situation I'm in. I mean, if I'm talking to a friend at a restaurant, I try not to go into my deepest, darkest trauma in the restaurant, so.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to, know when. Because in certain situations, you can say some of it, and then other situations, you can't. Yeah. I want to do, a heart check, just because I think it's healthy to kind of go over where you're at before going into it. Episode or anything, just so we're aware. I think today's been good. This whole weekend has been good. I feel like my cup is definitely filled. We had your, birthday party Friday at a friend's house, and then we went to a softball game Saturday, went to a new place to eat, this diner in my hometown, and we went to my parents, hung out, had a cookout, and then came to my apartment. And then today we hung out all day. We had a really good service.
Yes.
At church. I think that was much needed. So yeah, I'm definitely tired and wore out.
And we weren't busy, but it felt like we were busy all day.
Yeah. I think we had a lot of activities that we didn't spend a lot of time at each store that we went to.
Right.
But we went to a lot.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at. But I'm excited. I'm excited to kind of hang out.
I mean, I'm just definitely nervous, but
yeah,
I have been praying a lot, but also I know I tell you all the time, why would I keep what God has done for me just to me? Why not share it? Because I know if I would have heard or talked to people that dealt with the same thing I was dealing with in the moment, it would have helped me a lot. So if anybody listens and they're going through something that I've been through, then I hope I can show what God has done for me, but also be a help in that way.
I agree. I've heard it said a lot that the enemy wants to silence you because of exactly what you said. If every Christian told their testimony to the full extent, then people would recognize how broken Christians are.
Well, he's already trying to do that.
Why they need Christ.
Yeah, he was already trying to do that when I was planning this out in my head about, okay, well, you can leave that out, or you don't have to necessarily go into much detail about that, but that is not the point. And that's exactly what he wants to do. He doesn't want God to get the glory or any recognition at all.
Exactly. And it's really easy to fall into that.
Yeah.
And accept that. What's your heart check?
I'm good. I'm excited. I know this is only our second episode, but I love doing this. I love doing it with you, but also what I get out of it spiritually and also individually. And like I just said, I think it's just time. I know that I've been through things that lots of people are going through, and I think it's just time to share that. And I'm very nervous. I'm very scared, and I hope I don't get emotional, but I'm ready to do it. I'm excited.
Me too. I think it'll be good. I'm excited. I've heard a little bit of it.
I mean, mostly everything on here, I'm pretty sure that I've told you, but there probably will be some details that you haven't heard.
I think it'll be good. Basically, I'm just going to let you tell it, go through it, but if I have any, questions or anything like that, I'm just going to either, write them down and wait for a minute to ask you, or I'm just going to ask you.
Okay. All right. If you can't tell, I grew up in the deep South. I was the only child. It was just me, my mom, and my dad. And at a very early age, I could tell that I've been so aware since I was young, just aware of everything, but very aware that they were not very normal parents. Something was different. So then, obviously, I figured out that they were addicts, both of them.
Of what?
Mostly weed, but pills. And then if there was more, I didn't know, but I was very aware of weed and pills. It was not a godly household growing up at all. My mom had a friend, we would go to church with her Easter, Christmas, maybe. But I was kind of under the impression, like, as I got older, that my parents didn't believe, like, in God. I mean, there was no conversations, like, no, whatever. I don't really have any, I mean, I have memory. I don't really have any memory of how old I was or anything like that, but I would probably guesstimate of probably about 4th grade. We had a neighbor, like, I was taken advantage of. My parents to this day still don't know. I've told 2 best friends that I've had, and I've told him. That's it. So that, obviously, I had no idea what was happening at the time, and I think that kind of started a lot of things in my life, and it started a scar that I didn't know that I was dealing with until later on. But to go to that, as I said, I was an only child. I had full reign to everything. The internet, I could go and do what I wanted. I had no boundaries. I had no restrictions. All the freedom that any kid could want, I had it.
At any age.
Any age. And I think it's because my parents were very young and they were kind of just, do what you want to do, stay out of my way.
Yeah. They were still growing up and wanted to have fun. They didn't want to have to take care of a kid.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And they were obviously dealing with their own things. They were more worried about their things than me.
Yeah.
I mean, water gets shut off every now and then. Stuff being pawned,
It's kind of weird because I'm assuming you were like a good kid. Like your mom has said that you weren't crazy.
Like, I was very shy.
Yeah.
Straight A's in school.
Yeah. What's the saying? Like the squeaky faucet gets the oil. The rowdy kid gets the attention.
Right.
So,
and I didn't want the attention. Like I didn't want any type of attention.
Yeah.
To build on that, realizing the freedom I had, got older. I got an iPod, like iPod Touch at some point, and that's kind of when I had free reign. So definitely, I think started talking to strangers on Kick and Omegle and
Okay. If y'all don't know what Kick is. I used to use it to message friends because they didn't have service because we lived so far out in the country. It was kind of like
Facebook Messenger. You just had to have Wi-Fi. I figured out you could join chat rooms and just talk to random people. Looking back on it, I was probably talking to grown men, and I was like 12. Oh, yeah. That probably started a lot of stuff too. But also, I think that's definitely when I started kind of dabbling in pornography, but not. I was always kind of too scared I would get caught, but it's not like my parents were checking my stuff. Anything like that. So not crazy or anything like that, but things go on. Things are kind of slowly getting worse at home. I'm getting older, so obviously more aware.
Your parents, in the living situation and stuff like that. Yeah.
So then probably around 15, I had this friend and we were very codependent on each other because she was kind of in the same situation I was in and we were together all the time. We just fed off of each other. It was very toxic, but she went to a church. Oh, to go back, in like elementary, middle school, I would go to church with friends.
Yeah, for the community aspect.
Yeah, exactly. And some churches fed us, so I knew I would have a good meal. So I would go. I was just like, okay, I'm going to church. I have something to do tonight.
Yeah.
So then 15, this friend that I had, she's actively going to church. Like at this time, this church had a very big youth group. A lot of people I went to school with went there. And she was going, I'm going to go. So I started going with her, and we would go on Wednesdays, and then she was going on Sunday morning. Well, you're staying the night at my house Saturday night. You're getting up and going to church. Like, I'm going to go too. Around that time, I remember like one Sunday she went down to the altar, and then I went down at the same time too, and she got saved. And then at that time too, I thought I did too. I made a profession of faith.
Yeah.
And so at that time, stuff started kind of changing. Listening to gospel music all the time. I was trying to read my Bible. Had no idea what I was doing, but I was trying. There was a period where I did not cuss ever. And it's crazy to look back on because I do have a mouth sometimes, just to put it honestly, but I think if someone says they don't, they're lying. But anyways.
Yeah. Have you seen there's a video online of a pastor stubbing his toe in the middle of the night. It went viral because he showed it in church on Sunday, and he was like, watch this, and when you stub your toe, like, words are going to come out of your mouth.
Good for him.
But he didn't. He didn't say anything. And he was like, that's how you know, like, these are the fruits of my spirit, and that's how you know it's real. Because how many people are going to stub their toe or like smash their finger or something
Not me.
And sit there and not be saying a cuss word?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, me either. Like, I can barely be in traffic and someone doesn't use their blinker.
Don't get me started.
Okay.
So anyways, so obviously this wasn't, my parents knew I was going to church, but it wasn't something I was running home like, yeah, I got saved. Time goes on. High school keeps going. At the beginning of senior year, me and this friend stopped being friends. But in my senior year of high school is when things really got bad at my house. So the house that we were living in was my grandparents' house. And long story short, they let us live there because I was there. They were basically like, okay, Shelby, graduate. Y'all either need to pay or y'all need to get out. And so we had to get out.
Because it was like a lot of money, right?
Like,
it was like a back pay type
over
of thing?
$20,000.
Yeah.
And at this point, things are bad. I would go to school. My dad would leave at 7 a.m. to go to the liquor store, and I would get back home from school, and he would be passed out drunk on the floor, constantly fighting, bills not being paid, just everything running rampant. And I had so much resentment, so much anger. It was just constantly building.
Whenever you started going to church, were you questioning God why you were in that situation?
Yeah.
It's tough.
Or why things didn't change. Why. Yeah, just why, basically, overall. Get kicked out. And we move into this duplex. And at this point, I'm trying to obviously figure out college, what I'm going to do. Obviously my parents can't pay for college, all this and all that. So we move into this duplex, and then we probably weren't even there a month. And then we have to move, like we can't pay the rent. So then we moved in with my mom's friend. And my mom's friend, it was her and her 2 kids. And then it was me, my dad, and my mom, and things were just still bad. And I was not rock bottom yet, but depression was extremely high. Summer goes by and I have a job. And
summer right after high school?
Yes, and I had decided I'm just going to go to community college in my town. It's obviously cheaper. I'm just going to get my prereqs. I have no idea what I'm going to do yet, whatever. One night, I had went and bought a pizza for myself because half of the time they were buying fast food anyways, but also there was food in the house. And also, these are grown folks in this house. Why would I go and make sure they had food too,
That's like a normal thing too. When you start making your own money, you're like, oh, I'm going to go out to eat.
Well, I guess it hit a nerve. I don't remember who came in there first, like my mom or my mom's friend, but someone came in there and started going off yelling about how can you get this and not get anybody else nothing and all this and all that. And I was basically just, I don't know what to tell you. And then I think maybe it was my mom that came in there first, and then her friend came in there after. At this point, I was already trying to figure out what to do, but she was like, you have to go.
You were trying to figure out like how to not
somewhere
live,
else to live. Yeah, but at this point she was like, you have to go.
They were freaking out because you didn't ask if they wanted anything,
or I didn't give them like some of my stuff. I had one pizza. Okay, I'm gonna go to work tomorrow. I'm gonna have lunch tomorrow.
Yeah.
Anyways, so she's like, you have to go. Okay. So I packed up all my stuff, and I was still going to that church. So some people that I was going to church with basically helped set me up. This older lady had like an empty room in her house. And that's where I ended up.
How was this before you started college, or like when you were
right when I started college?
Okay.
So
and you didn't take a gap year, right?
No.
So like right after like the semester, like
I started a new job, started college, and then all this is happening. So I move in with this older lady. I'm very grateful that she let me live there, but it wasn't the best of places, I guess you could say. And she had a daughter who was an addict, and she would be there sometimes, and then like sometimes wouldn't, but like she would come in there. It was basically like I was living at home again. Like she would come in there breaking stuff. She like ripped her door off of her hinges. Like I was reliving when I was at home.
Yeah.
So then at this point, I'm okay. I'm technically homeless. I don't have anywhere to go.
Yeah.
Except, like, I mean, I have this place here, but if she wouldn't have let me stay there, like, where would I have went? So then I think at this point, this is where my vices became an all-time high, and this is when I started self-harming, because I was feeling everything but nothing all at the same time.
Yeah.
And that was... Obviously, people who self-harm know this was the only way that I was feeling anything. And nobody knew. Nobody. And it was my thing. Like, even if I had a technically good day, I would still come home and do it. It was like a had to type of thing. And obviously, during all this, too, I was idolizing suicide. I'll probably get into this later, but, like, I know what stopped me. But in the moment, I don't really know what was stopping me. Hiding my vices in college, trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. Still going to church through all this, like still going to church, but also still confused. I'm going to church, I'm reading my Bible, like I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to do, and I want to kill myself.
And were you able to talk to anyone? I've been to your church very few times, but there's not a whole lot of young adults your age now.
No.
And it doesn't look like there's a lot.
At that time, I was going to a different church.
Oh, okay.
But it was the same way.
Yeah. Young
I
adults
had
in
some
that time.
people in my life at the time that I guess helped in the best way that they could at the time. Nobody like necessarily my age or anything like that.
And it's always different.
Like I said, going to church, working, trying to figure out what I want to do with life. And then at some point, things at this house that I was at just started getting extremely bad. Basically, in 2018, I moved 6 times from my childhood house to where I stayed the longest. It was another older lady from the church I went to. It was just her. She had a whole side of the house that she didn't use. And obviously, looking back, I was very grateful. But also in that, I think there was some type of anger and some type of...
Kind of like resentment, because...
I was confined to a room, like in every space I was at this lady's house that I lived along. I had my own space, but I was in one room.
And I feel like it would be easy to slip into the mindset of, okay, like at least I have a roof over my head, but for how long?
No,
and
exactly.
What's my relationship like with this person? You understand where you're at.
Right.
And also... it would be frustrating to not have something of your own after so long of like sharing houses and uncomfortable living situations.
I thought all the time, why am I acting more grown up than my parents are? At this time, prereqs are fixing to end. I was gonna do dental hygiene, but the dental hygiene school here in Arkansas is very hard to get into. They only take like 30 kids a year. And then I tried to apply to a radiology program at the community college I was going to because they had a pretty good radiology program. Didn't work out. Long story short, I decided on nursing. I was kind of pushed towards one school at that moment in my life. And it was a bigger nursing school. It was private, so it was more expensive. And this was also the time during COVID too. But I got in. But also during this time, I was extremely depressed. I'm staying up till 5 a.m., sleeping till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And obviously, my vices have gotten worse, as in self-harm, pornography.
You didn't drink or smoke or anything because of experiences that you were raised
I drank a couple times in high school, but
it was never like your thing.
No, because I mean, I know I have the addictive gene on both sides. Stuff's an all-time high. Still going to church on all this. Still doing what I'm supposed to. Get into nursing school. I hate it. It's horrible. It's during COVID. A through D, like, would go up there at a time to do stuff. I had this one horrible clinical instructor. She told me twice on 2 different occasions, like, you're not going to be a nurse. Like, this is not for you.
Let the record show that she is a nurse. We haven't got to that part in the story yet, but
he just ruined it.
I'll give you a little bit of insight.
And also in this, I'm trying to figure out how I can get out of nursing school. Like, what can I do? I consider going to the Army, to the Air Force.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
Yes, but you can't be crazy to go in the Army. I was on antidepressants at this time.
Oh, okay.
And if you're on those medications, they will not let you go. And I was also not in the best shape. Like, I'm not in the best shape now, but I was in worse.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Army, I couldn't do that. And then also at this, I think I had to make a 90 on the final to like pass the semester at nursing school. Not happening. So I failed.
Your first semester.
My first semester in nursing school failed. And then I think this is actually rock bottom because obviously I felt like a failure. I didn't want to do nursing school, but it's what am I going to do? I had no desire to do anything. I wanted to make the most money, but not go to school for 14 years. Obviously, I think everybody wants to do that. And at this point, I'm still on medication. I vividly remember I was on a certain medication. I had found out I failed nursing school. This type of it was okay. I don't know why they gave that to me. I had 3 left. I took all 3 and I went to work. I knew the 3 wouldn't do anything to me. Like, I knew it would mess me up, but I knew it wasn't gonna, like, whatever. I was on 2 different medications that I was taking every day. I remember multiple times a week sitting there and counting every pill to see how many I had. I guess in my mind, just like if it would do something if I took them all.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why I didn't at that time, and during this time, multiple nights on the bathroom floor. Just, it's not upsetting in a way to look back on, but no one knew. Kind of where
very alone, isolating.
Yeah,
isolation.
I mean, there was some people in my life that knew what was happening. I was talking to, but not the extreme.
The extent of what's happening.
Decide to try nursing school again, but a different one, a way smaller one. They only take 30 people into a class. The first one I went to was like 150.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I get in, and I think there was like a 6-month gap maybe between. I start nursing school again. And ironically, a friend that I like went to elementary school and high school, everything with, she was in my class. Right off the bat, okay, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
Still going to church throughout all this. Still kind of dealing with my things. Nursing school, the first semester goes good. Passed it fine. Passed it great. Get to the second semester. Start off strong. I failed the first test and I had to come back all semester from it. Had to make a certain grade like on the last test to even sit for the final. And nursing school, obviously people who've been through nursing school, they know it's a beast in its own self.
Yeah.
I'm working 2 jobs at this time because I'm fully dependent on myself. I paid all my bills.
Staying at the lady's house.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fully sufficient on myself. Everything was on me. Everything. So that's also stressful in itself too. If your tire is, you have a bad tire, you have to figure out $100 to last me until next week, whatever. Nursing school keeps going on. Things are kind of, I'm not getting better, but I'm so distracted by nursing school, I cannot focus on anything else. At some point during nursing school, switch churches to the one that you've been to now. And also at some point during nursing school, I had stopped self-harming because I probably, looking back, can probably say convicted from it. Like extremely. I don't even know how to explain it. It's just, I don't know the word. Just like when you're in that moment and you're fully aware of what you're doing, but you still do it.
I think conviction is a good thing. It's definitely like just the power of the Holy Spirit, calling you out, convicting you, and you're recognizing your sin.
At this time, I had stopped that. Before that, I would stop it and then go back, stop it, go back. But I was fully in bondage with pornography. And I use it the same exact way as self-harm. Good day, used it. Bad day, used it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't recognize, because I say that I use like sexual sin as self-harm. You're using it to patch a hole, or because you feel a certain way about yourself. So like, I'll just go to this because it gives me the feelings that you're searching for, the boost of serotonin that you need.
Right.
And
it's
even
setting
though
so
you
many
know
things off in your brain.
Yeah, and I think it's self-harm because you know that how bad it is and how wrong. I
hated myself for doing it. I felt disgusting. I felt horrible. But there was no stopping me. Like, there was no stopping me. I would delete certain apps that I would use it on, but then I would just go another route. I would find a way. Find a way, as in I would try to set myself up to where I couldn't do it, but I'm finding a way. And this goes on, and I feel horrible about it. I think I hated it more. I mean, I hated everything that I used, but I hated it more than self-harm because I just felt so disgusting. That's really the only word that I can use. And it's just crazy how the world looks at it. It's so normal. What do you mean?
Sex in general. And they're like, well, if you want to, do it.
I've heard people who are in relationships say that they watch it together, and that's just...
They think that it's beneficial for them.
Insane to me. And I know I'm going to have repercussions from it. Like, I know I already do. That's on me. Like, that's within his sin. Also, no one, including him, he's the second person I've told about that.
I didn't realize, because one thing that I think a lot of Christians go through, especially if you're born again, the world says that sex and porn and all this stuff is okay, but whenever you come to Christ, you feel so shameful about it, and you just feel disgusted about it, and you don't want to tell anyone. But the more that I've been around circles of people that have had these conversations, they all have like similar experiences and they all talk about it. It's very hard for them to talk about it and they never want to tell anyone. But it's also so powerful whenever you get someone that does just openly. I remember when this guy started coming to my small group and he would come in and just automatically saying like, I was addicted to porn for this many years and this and that. And I was like, oh my gosh, first day he started talking about that. And I was amazed just by his vulnerability.
It's not normal for a female, really.
Yeah, to talk about it. It's a lot of people don't talk about it.
No.
But the percentage of females that watch it it's growing. Yeah. It's more males, but like there's still a very large percentage of females.
Like I felt kind of weird in that too, because it's like I'm a girl, like I'm not supposed to whatever.
Right now you're in nursing school.
Yeah.
Still, you're still living with the lady from your old church, but you have switched new churches, and you're not self-harming, but you're using pornography as self-harm. And were you like talking to your parents any?
No, not at all.
You weren't talking to them?
No. Even before that, the place where I worked, my mom would like try to show up places where I was at, and I would fully have a panic attack. But no, not at all. Life goes on. I'm still in nursing school, 2022 at this point. So I remember we had a sermon on Sunday morning. I don't really know what it's about, but I know I was convicted from the time I left church Sunday morning that day until we got back Wednesday. Like, still. Obviously, at the time, I didn't know what was... I knew it was kind of conviction, but also I didn't really know what was happening because at this time, I thought I was saved. Like, I thought... I was like... Is the devil making me question? Is there something else? But also, I'm still dealing with these vices. But it's like I also didn't know how to stop them. What is happening? So Wednesday night, after church, I get in my car and I just start praying. And I realized I had the head knowledge of being saved, but I did not have the heart knowledge. And so I got saved on May 8th, 2022 in my car. For real this time. Things definitely changed, like, heart-wise and the way that I was looking at things then.
You, like, felt a change.
Yeah. And, I mean, I fully felt a weight off of my shoulders at that time. Like, unfortunately, I was still not ready to give up these vices that I had.
Sanctification is a process.
But now that I was really saved, the conviction was hard, sickening, and grateful for that. I'm so grateful. I think with that conviction, I've stopped. I don't know, a day. This is damaging me. This is damaging my relationship with Christ. So I stopped cold turkey and like haven't gone back or nothing. Every now and then, I'll have which I know these are from the enemy and all that, but I'll have the itch to self-harm.
Oh, yeah.
Especially, like, depending on the situation, bad days and stuff like that. But I definitely deal with the pornography one more.
I think that is something that everyone deals with in one way or another. And I thought about it in a certain way where your body is meant to experience those things, not pornography.
Right.
But obviously, like, to have those intimate moments with someone one day, God made your body to function the way that it does. He built temperatures to rise and to lower and all of these things to happen, but our minds know you can't go through with it until you're in God's picture of marriage because of, like, the mental aspect. But I just thought about that in small group today because we were going over something similar, and I was like, it's hard. I think people are hard on themselves, like, really, really hard on themselves whenever they fall into this specific sin, and to an extent, like, you should be, because it's sin and you should hate your sin. But also, it's a beautiful thing that your body is meant to operate in that way and to do those things to recreate.
Way. Yeah.
Or to
procreate.
Procreate, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a right way. And I mean, like, throughout all of, high school, college, I don't know if it was fear, respect for myself in some way, but like I said, I could have been so much crazier than I was, and I could have been having sex and, like, doing all these things, but I didn't. I went through a purity class at some point in high school, maybe 15, 16, and I guess it, like, really did something in some way because...
I'm sorry, a what class?
A purity class.
A purity class. In school?
In church.
Oh.
I was going to say my high school. I was like, you really think that happened? No. And also, like, at this point, I thought I was saved, but that's one thing that stuck. Like, I've stayed pure. I mean, we talk about all the time. That's going to bring blessings, and that's going to be blessed from God.
It's weird because if I was in high school and someone's like, oh, I'm saving myself for marriage, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
That's weird. But... now, like, I have so much admiration for the people that do, and I'm not a person that regrets anything that I've done just because I know that I would not be who I am without those experiences, but there's some that I could do without, and I have let the shamefulness of it last for so long, and it's just, like, I have such a newfound awe of people that have that experience in life.
Yeah.
Of purity.
But like I was saying, there's going to be blessings in that, and, like, it's all for God to get the glory, and it's, his perfect idea of marriage and the joining of a man and a woman. But I know, too, that there will be consequences in, like...
pornography?
Yes.
Okay. I was like, consequences for saying pure? What is it?
No, okay. Consequences of the pornography, things that I'm going to have to deal with because of using that, and things that you'll have to deal with because of... Like,
are you calling me out because of my pornography?
No, okay. I'm saying things that I don't know how to say it.
Whenever you're stuck in that sin cycle of pornography and just sexual sin in general, it affects so many more people than you believe.
Absolutely.
And if no one tells you, one, which is why it's so important for people to talk about it and tell their experiences, and two, if you don't know God's design for sex, why it was created, and how he sees it, you're going to feel shameful about it. And other people in your life are going to suffer because of you doing that. Even not just your spouse, your kids are going to be affected in some way or another, because if you think about it, it's like it's going to affect your spouse, and then you and your spouse's relationship is going to affect your kids.
Yeah.
And it's just a cycle. It literally is just downhill in a spiral. And I think it's important also to say that we are forgiven by God for our sins, but also people fall. You're going to fall into temptation sometimes, but it's a matter of where you run to afterwards. I think that's really important, because if you fall into the sin and you run back to your worldly vices, you're going to continue to sin, and that power of conviction is going to be slowly taken away from you. And if you run to God, then God's going to meet you in that moment, and he's going to give you love, but he's also going to give you that conviction, and he's going to open your eyes to where over time, some people are like, well, it's been, 2 days, and that's like the max or whatever. And then it starts to go to 5 days.
Yeah.
And then a week, and then 2 weeks, and then 3. And then before you know it, like you're focused more on God than looking at your phone and searching for those things, or when something pops up. I just want to say, like, it's important because I think feel really, really harshly about themselves.
Yeah. Go back to what we were talking about. Like, I definitely struggle with that one more. Obviously, human, it's so normalized in our society. It's in everything. It's in everything we watch. It's in music. Like, it's in everything. Like, you can barely watch a show without a sex scene coming on or whatever. And then also, when you're in a relationship where you're purposely not doing things, it just heightens everything in a way.
For instance, if you live several hours apart.
And you only see each other twice a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's...
Yeah.
tricky. You both have your own spaces, but you can't stay in those spaces together, for just an example.
But like you said, running to Jesus in those moments, and also remembering, one, the enemy's favorite thing to do is throw things back up in our face that we, our past. And also, when Jesus looks down on us when we're saved, he doesn't see our sin, he sees his blood.
Exactly.
But to go back to all of that, like, I definitely think in those moments where I was on the bathroom floor contemplating life, or not really understanding why I was here, not really understanding why I didn't take my life, I know in those moments that God was with me in those moments. I might not have been saved, but I know he was with me in those moments. I would not be making it to 25 tomorrow without him. But also, to go back, I did graduate nursing school. And I'm here today.
You own a home, hopefully not for long. But she's trying to sell it so we can move closer.
So I can move.
So we can live closer. I want you to just explain, like, because I think it is a beautiful picture whenever someone doesn't grow up in a stable home, and especially in your situation, you didn't know how long you were going to be living in the place that you were living in. You didn't know who's going to be coming through the door. Like, you're constantly relying on someone else for things. My dog is trying to go outside, and I'm trying to really, this is emotional. You're constantly relying on other people, and then you finally own a home, something that you can call yours. You can decorate it how you want, or not decorate it at all.
Okay. I was fixing to say, but he had to call me out myself.
Okay, my dog was really needing to go outside, so we had a little intermission. I was gonna say, like, you could go into your relationship with God before you were bought your house, and like kind of how you felt whenever you finally had a home to call yours, and like had that experience. I had an
identity crisis. It didn't seem real.
That you were actually buying your own home.
Yeah, that I had not just one room, but a whole home.
That's another thing that I was thinking, which you don't say the jobs that you had, but they were probably minimum wage. Like, working 2 jobs and then being a nurse, which is a big girl job, that's an adult job. But what did that feel like in the context of religion and like your relationship with God? And then also, like, did you have any struggles through those?
I think it was a lot of praying in the form of just saying thank you.
Okay. Just giving thanks.
Yeah. That I even made it there, but let alone buying a house and graduated school and just getting to that point. I don't know. I think there's some times where that why question still comes up. Like, why did I have to go through those things, or why did I have to deal with that? But now, like, where I'm at, I can definitely tell it made me the person I am today, but also it made the relationship that I have with Christ what it is today. I wouldn't lean on him the way that I do without all of those things.
What about your relationship status? Because we met, so what year did you We met a year after you bought your house, right?
I graduated
When did you buy your house? Right after nursing school?
June of 2023.
Okay, yeah. So you bought your house a little bit more than a year before we met. Is that right? So you didn't live there for long. I know that whenever I got my apartment and I lived on my own, I had my first, because I had previously lived in an apartment, horrible situation, and it wasn't my own. I had roommates. But whenever I moved into this place and it was on my own, I had a lot of prayer of God, I have so much more, I have more freedom now than I've ever had to fall into these temptations or to have anyone I want over, things like that. So like, what did that look like? And then also, did you feel kind of your life was going in a weird direction because you got a big girl job, you bought a house, you didn't say it, but you also like bought a car and living this adult life, and you didn't have anyone to share it with. Did you have those? Because I had I'm not calling you out. I had a lot of those emotions, and I was like, I feel like I'm doing life backwards because everyone else, whenever they start hitting these milestones, they already are in a relationship.
Yeah. I definitely had, like, I wasn't where I was supposed to be at my age.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, there's a part of me that definitely felt that, having those thoughts of like, I would love to be in a relationship with someone here, but also I was so...
You seem independent anyway.
Yeah, very independent, very heavily guarded. Like, I wasn't just going to let any Joe Schmo, like, whatever. I don't know. Like, I never really thought about that question or, like, thought about it that deep. You know, just every now and then, like, it would have been nice to have someone here. Or, like, have
but you weren't, like, tripping over it.
Yeah. I could have cared less in that time. Necessarily could have cared less. That's a bad way to put it. But just, I wasn't...
You didn't feel like you were missing out because of it.
I wasn't, like, actively looking or, like, searching. And then I think that started as in, like, I got on dating apps. Like, I never thought anything would come from a dating app.
No. Was I the first guy that you took to your house?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yes.
Second date, by the way. If that tells you.
I went on a few dates, like, from people from dating apps, and they were horrible, of course. I went on a date with somebody that kind of knew from the old church that I went to. Before the dating apps and stuff, and so that's why I didn't think nothing would come from a dating app. Like, I was not...
You didn't have high hopes in it?
No. Part of me was kind of using the dating apps just like company.
Because you were bored.
I just wanted to talk to somebody.
Yeah. I used to say that all the time. I knew that I didn't want to be in a relationship. And at a point in my life, I was like, I don't need to be in a relationship. I need to focus on God. And God kind of told me, reassured that. He was like, if you get into a relationship, you're not going to be focusing on me. All your attention is going to go to this. You haven't built that firm foundation that's needed in order to build on. Firm foundation being Christ, and then everything else in your life, like, being built on top of it. But I'd be like, I'm bored. Like, I just want a message or, like, someone to talk to, like, throughout the day. My thing was, it wasn't even big things, like big experiences. It was, I wanted to go to a new coffee shop, have someone to go with.
Yeah.
Or just have company. I think the enemy can get to you in that moment.
And, like, I'm obviously, like, I was so set. Christian dating is just very hard in this world.
Yeah.
And
it's hard to know someone's intentions in general, but it's worse whenever you are a true Christian following after God's word and, like, running after him, and you want someone that is the same, and a lot of people aren't. They're not real Christians.
Yeah, I mean, I was very straight up and up forward with these people that I would talk to. God is my homeboy. I mean, you know, we can go to church together. Like, I'm not gonna have sex with you. Like, not gonna do anything along those lines with you. And that most of the time ran them away. And, you know.
Yep.
See ya. But
at this point, you had a home, you had a good job, you were, like, out of school, not dealing with self-harm in the same ways. And really, you were recognized that you were truly saved. And you were 22? 23 at that point. What was your relationship with God like in those days? Like, what did it consist of?
I think it was definitely just growing more with him every day. Like, I was actually reading my Bible and, like, retaining it and actually learning stuff and actually wanting to read it and wanting to know more and praying and wanting to grow those things. And
you desired it. You like desired to. Yeah. You talk to your mom now, and I've, like, met her and everything, but what was the, like, rekindling of that?
I'm sure if there was a sermon or something, but I think it was just conviction of, obviously, I was hurting myself in my relationship with Christ, harboring those things. There's a verse, I remember, like, I underlined it and I sent it to my mom, and I was like, what I just said, like, I'm hurting myself more, I forgive you, like, I didn't say this, but I forgive you, but don't forget, like, whatever. But I'm working on me and my relationship with Christ, and this is a part of that. Some preconceived idea that if I did that, like, she was gonna be at my house every day, and like, she was gonna be my mom again, like, you know what I mean? And I had to get over, like, that's not, like, I'm an adult. Like, if I don't want to talk to her, I don't have to. Or if I don't want to go over there, I don't have to.
Yeah.
And, like, understanding that, I think, helped also.
You think it helped having that because you didn't want it to be?
I don't think it'll ever be the same how it was. I don't think it'll ever be, like, a normal mom and daughter relationship. Semi-normal, maybe?
Yeah. And we don't have to go into everything, but you haven't talked to your dad in a while, and that's still something sort of. I think that from what I've heard, like, your relationship with your mom, your relationship with your dad are completely different. And sometimes people do things that you can forgive, and you can allow God to take that pain and that weight away from you and to carry that, but that doesn't mean that you have to talk to those people. It doesn't mean that you have to have a relationship. Exactly. And something that my mom says, which I don't know how biblical this is, but my mom is very big on, if someone treats you a certain way, it doesn't matter if they're family or not, if they're blood or not, they're still treating you that way. And she's very big on, like, because sometimes you create your family around you.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't understand that unless you've been in the situation or you've been really close to someone else in the situation. But I think that that is something to pray about.
Yeah.
And I think
I've forgiven both of them, but I'm not sure at this moment where I'm at right now, I'm not sure when or if there will be a time that I would feel comfortable talking to him or
your
seeing
father.
him. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's valid. I think it's like, we live our lives as Christians. We pray about a lot of things. We go through a lot of things. And in life, if we're lucky, we are praying about things that are minor in a sense, but we make them, because of our emotions and because of the world around us and the way that we see it and our sinful nature, like, we make it seem a lot bigger than it is. You know, just little prayers that you say throughout the day, situations, stuff like that. And then sometimes we have prayers that are huge and the situations are really big, and it's things that people are not meant to go through, and it takes a lot of time to process, and it takes a lot of time to get your footing. I'm a big person of trying to figure out what I believe and why I believe it. Not necessarily my religion, but my ideas on certain topics and my ideas on certain situations and stuff like that. I've talked to you about medication, like prescribed medication. I've spent a lot of time thinking about it and really figuring out what I believe, why I believe it. And it's a process.
Yeah.
And I think
I still deal with, I mean, as a 25-year-old, deal with, like, what happened to me with my neighbor today.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think it takes a long time to recognize what experiences you've been through, and then it takes even longer to see it for what it is and how it's affecting you, and to recognize the things in your life now and to pinpoint it back to certain experiences.
Absolutely.
And whenever big things happen to you and big things change your life, it takes big movements of God to change that. And it takes big movements and big prayers.
Yeah. I mean, there's, like we talked about in the last episode, and like we talk about all the time, there's things that happen in my childhood / life that affect our relationship. And it's because of something that happened to me. Yeah. But it's how, like, I processed it and went through it. It affects us.
And I think it's very, I won't say that I think that you should be very diligent to the things that you're exposing yourself to and all of that, especially if you're older and you're able to cultivate the environment around you. If you're younger, still living at home, obviously you don't have as much control. Like, for instance, in my apartment, I choose who comes in and who doesn't.
Right.
And if you live with someone else or roommates, anything like that, you have a different living situation, you don't get to choose that all the time. But it's one of the reasons that I kind of have changed some of the ways that I'm living and my thought processes and stuff for, like, my future kids and people the circles that I'm around, so that I can be a light for them. And whenever you go through hard stuff, it's hard to do that. It is hard to be a light whenever you've lived in so much darkness. And I think you can't be a light on your own. You're a reflection of Jesus's light in your life.
Right.
Right. So it's like, you can't create the light. You can only reflect it. That was good.
That was good. Put it on a shirt.
That was good. It's such a saddening story, like, hearing your testimony, like, how you've grown up, but it is also insane. I remember when we were talking in Branson, I was like, how are you not an alcoholic? Like, how were you not? Because I went through, not that, but hard things. And I did turn into an alcoholic. And I did rely on these things. But it shows that people will lean on different things for their vices and to feel a relief. And it's
Right, that
there
was
needs
yours
to be,
and I had mine.
exactly. And there needs to be representation for all of it.
Yeah.
You know, don't make your sin
it's
pretty.
Because, like,
but
I saw that obviously in the house and growing up. I don't know, scared of it in a way. So.
And it's like that with a lot. You know, sometimes people will see it and they'll lean to it, or they'll run from it.
Absolutely.
And I mean, it's such a testament, you know, to recognize where you came from and then where you're at, and all you can do is point to Jesus and point to God, because like he was taking care of you from kind of like the moment that he could, in a sense, like the moment, like, yes, you got kicked out and you had to live, you didn't know where you were staying, like you were technically homeless, like all of these things, but also because you were in that church and you had the experiences when you were younger, you made connections, and you made other people made connections, and that room was available. You got to stay in it, and then for some reason or another that didn't work out, so you know, and thankfully, like, you didn't have to sleep in your car for an extended amount, like that I know of.
No, I didn't.
And that's, you know, if you weren't plugged into a church, who would you have, you know what I mean, like you could have been stuck going to a friend's house,
or I would have just stayed like in my parents' house, and who knows where I would have ended up.
Exactly. And I think it's beautiful. It is definitely a testament of you're going to suffer as a Christian and in life in general. That's sort of, everyone will in one way or another. And whenever you lean on Christ and you fully recognize your sinful ways and the way that Christ can come in and completely change your life, you know what I mean? Because by probably most statistics, and like even my own experience, like, because I've had friends that have grew up in similar situations and they are nowhere near where you're at or like the person that you are. So it's kind of crazy that, you know, you're beating the odds, and generational curses and the whole nine.
It's nothing to do with me, all to do with Christ.
And I think a lot of times he sets it up like that. Like, it is very much, there is absolutely no way that someone, and he wants you to know that, you know. He wants it to be known that.
And like, even just like you're saying, generational, like I never want my kids to go through
what I went through. Yeah. And I think it's beautiful because it's like sometimes you have to be the person that goes through a lot. Yeah. And I'm not going to speak for God, and I'm not going to speak being like, well, this is what he does or whatever. But I am comfortable. I think it matches his heart. Like sometimes where it's like, you know what, like you may have to go through a lot, but no one after you will have to go through the same things. And it's like, I'll take that weight. I will take the weight of the situations that I've been through, because one, I know that I have Christ and to lean on, and that is where my foundation is. That is where my comfort is. That is where I run to, and I know that he can shoulder it. And two, I want my kids, every parent wants their kids to be better than them, but I don't want my kids to have to go through what I went through. Right. You know, I think sometimes, just for like a word for anyone struggling or going through anything that you mentioned, or just a hard situation, and when you were talking about it, something like a light went off. In those dark times, it's so important where your eyes are fixated, like what your eyes are fixated on and who they are fixated on. And then also just recognizing that sometimes, like, there is a bigger picture. Absolutely. We are not supposed to know it. Sometimes if we're blessed, we'll get, you know, God will show us and he'll put that on our hearts. And then sometimes you're just leading, you know, with your faith.
And when the enemy has you in that darkness, he wants nothing more to keep you there.
He wants to silence you also in those dark times. I think that's why it's important you share your testimony. Keeping on brand.
I mean, he's going to do everything in his power to keep your life dark.
Everyone has a choice. And you can either sit in it, and you can sit in your sorrow and all these things.
Also, if you're in those dark moments, don't necessarily know this God guy, or you don't know. Why not try? Why not try it out?
Pray. And I tell everyone, I will die on this hill. If you don't know God, and you're not sure where to start, and you don't know about this, that, and the other, pray. Lean on the people around you, ask questions, and you have the internet at your fingertips. You can figure these questions out. Just pray and have an open mind. If you read something and it doesn't make sense, pray about it.
Don't let one person ruin it.
Exactly. And also make up your own decisions and your own thoughts. Yes. On your, you know, religion and your relationship with Christ, but also other things. Because there are people in the world that want you to believe what they believe, and they're going to dress it up real pretty, just like the enemy. I'm not comparing the two. Like, I'm not saying that those people are the enemy, but the enemy will dress something up, and he's going to, if you're questioning it, he's going to throw answers in your face that look real pretty.
Exactly.
And
he'll make you question your salvation.
Oh yeah, that's why you have to have your knowledge, and then also just recognize that, like, a relationship is what Jesus wants, and you can give that. Did you have anything else?
Obviously, growing my relationship with Christ every day, but I think a new prayer now has been to help me how to be a good wife, because I'm...
Like, to start putting that on your heart now.
Yeah, like that obviously wasn't modeled.
Yeah.
So I
think that's also something that, we're another thing that we're both going to be going through, because I come from a broken home, broken several times type of thing, like, and it's when you don't come from a Christ-centered home, then you don't know what that if you don't know what that looks like, it's going to be completely different. And
like, among all the other things, like, the world completely goes against, like, the roles of a man and a woman in a marriage, like what the Bible says versus what the world says. So yeah, I want to be rooted in Christ and in the Word. So, and
I think that we do a really good job at that. And if y'all want to hear more information about how we met, or kind of how we go about, we talk about it in our 1 year wrapped video. We kind of just talked about our relationship, how we met, how we go about things that we hear as a Christian couple, and waiting till marriage, and all of those things. And I think it's evident in that video that kind of how we center Christ around everything. We have been here for way too long, and we need to make some dinner. We're about to have, I think that was a lot of fun. I love hearing testimonies. I love digging in people's brains and asking them questions, and, having conversations like we just had. And obviously, whenever it's you, I love it a little bit more. But I have some pretty exciting episodes coming up. I am going to be doing more testimonies like this, as many as I can do, and probably switching between more conversational ones, or like solo episodes. And then I have some of friends and people that I go to church with that want to share their testimony, so stay tuned for that. And then, as always, I have an email in the description. Send prayer requests, send any questions. I always say, if you do not have a church and you want one, I will research churches and send them to you. Like, all it takes is an email, and you'll make a new friend. I think that was a lot of fun.
Hopefully I'll be back too.
Yeah, let me know if you want her. If we get 1,000 likes, then you can come back. My God. We'll definitely have you back on. I'm excited to have a topic-based episode with you. Do you want to say anything?
Keep praying. Reach out. There's always someone there.
All it takes is that one time, and there are people surrounding you that you would never think about that are ready to support you in your suffering. Definitely lean on people, and lean on the church, and obviously Christ. Pray about it.
Yeah.
Big prayers. And like I said, prayer request in the description. Shoot me an email.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Peace out, Girl Scout.